Hello, in today's video we're going to take a look at what I believe to be about a 1970 to 1972 perhaps Teisco Express 7 210 combo amp. This amp runs on two EL-84 or 6BQ5 tubes. Originally it would have had 7189 tubes according to the schematic, and it's identical in circuit to the Teisco Checkmate 18. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in checking out, stick around. And what we're going to do is go all the way through the point when I got this thing and it was kind of in a sorry state, up to the point where it is now, where you see it. We will take a look at the schematic, we will trace everything out, we will see what was monkeyed with and what was original. We will also check out a couple different sets of tubes and you know, bias, and eventually we will check out the tone of the thing. So if that's something you'd be interested in, stick around. Okay, excuse the lighting, but this is just to document the state that this amp is in when I got it. Basically the chassis was out of the cabinet. Got a little bit of a tear there, nothing big. There's our logo still intact. Nice trim, still intact. Let's see if we can get a shot of the faceplate. Again, you'll have to excuse the lighting. It's not ideal. We have tremolo, there's our reverb, bass, treble. And again, this is exactly how I've gotten this thing, and it's been tinkered with over the years. The former owner, looks like he changed a couple caps right there. There we go. Finally the lighting got a little better. He also added a second transformer and installed a tube rectifier. I don't know if it's all fully hooked up or not. I haven't traced all the wiring, but I think it looks like it's fully hooked up. I don't know where the solid state rectifier was located before, but he has definitely installed a rectifier. Let's turn this thing over. And a second transformer, because there was no, excuse me for the shaky video, but there was no 5-volt winding on this transformer, so he installed this one with a 5-volt winding. So he just paralleled the primary in with this primary and then ran the 5 volts here and drilled this hole and put this socket in. I might try it this way with that rectifier, especially since there's no solid state rectifier in it. We'll see. No tubes. I didn't get any tubes except for this one. We should have some 12AX7s and some EL-84s that I'm going to have to dig up. We've got some missing screws for our reverb tank mounts. Another missing one over there. I'm not sure what's up with these. With this. Some kind of foam under there. This is one of those too that if you reach in behind here and you go a little too far and you touch one of these, you're touching full, you know, probably, I don't know, 400 volts maybe. So you got to be careful, and I'll probably take these up. But any of these Japanese amps like this, you've got to be very careful when you reach behind them, because I mean, you can see right there on top, all of the terminals are just completely exposed. So you touch these and you're going to get a zap. But I don't know why this would have a cutout either. That's strange. Seems like that's where you would want some shielding, right there by your inputs. But this looks factory, like it's cut out from the factory. It's weird. We'll check out the speakers as well. Again, it's going to be hard to see, and you'll have to excuse the lighting, but and we'll get a better look at these later, I'm sure. Let's here we go. Let's get a little better light. These are Teisco labeled, but I don't think they were made by Teisco. I would say these are probably Pioneer made, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't see a code. 8 ohms, 20 watts. Could be, I guess it could be a Teisco speaker. I'm not really sure. There's all my mounting screws, that's good. The back door was missing. He's going to actually look and see if he has it, which I'm not going to count on that because that's kind of a long shot. But yeah, it looks like they're at least still mostly wired, like they should have been. So there's that. Now let's get it up on the bench, and also we'll see if we can find a schematic and see what we need to do with this thing. Okay, here we are with the schematic for this Teisco Express 7. This is also known as the Checkmate 18. So if you go looking for a schematic, and I'll put a link to this schematic in that I found in the description down at the bottom here. This is courtesy of this gentleman who I'd like to give credit to. But this is, again, this is the Express 7, also known as the Checkmate 18. You'll want to look for the Checkmate 18 schematic because you won't find an Express 7. And usually what I like to do in a situation where I've gotten something that's obviously been tinkered with in the past, I like to go through and just check every single component if I can, and just make sure everything checks out. Also, I'll mark off what pins on each tube everything's connecting to. So first things first, I went through and just checked that every component was correct and was accounted for, that all the connections were accounted for. This is a cathode biased circuit, as we can see here. The only things one of the few things actually that I saw that was changed was this 100 microfarad was made up of two paralleled caps to ground, so those had been changed at some point in the past. One of the few things that actually had been changed. I had to provide my own tubes, and I found a pair of 7189s in my stash, and we kept the also we kept the 5U4 rectifier rather than the 6C4, which it should have had to begin with. And I think what had happened is whoever had it drilled out the hole larger, well, of course they must have. He must have drilled out this hole larger, installed this socket, and also this transformer for the 5-volt supply for that, which is, I mean, that's a pretty serious mod for something something like this. But and also you can see here I taped up these connections on the top, so it'll be a little more difficult to accidentally electrocute yourself, basically. But again, you know, I went through the whole thing and just checked off every single component to make sure everything was accounted for. And the only thing that I've found that's not working at the moment is the reverb, and that's not really much of a shock because most of the time these reverb tanks, well, and also the fact that it's missing a couple of screws, mounting screws, is kind of a tip off. But these a lot of times can get shorted right around this area, and I'm gonna remove these covers and see what's going on with it. A lot of times just removing the cover on the tank will fix that problem. So we're going to try that, removing the cover, and see if that takes care of it. And if it does, I'll probably just leave the cover off. I don't think it does a whole lot really to kind of shield it or anything, because I've had them in the past, and where it didn't really add any noise whatsoever to have it unshielded. So I may just remove these covers and see how it goes, and if it works after that, then we will just run with it. So yeah, the reverb is the only thing actually that doesn't work since I fired this thing up, and we'll check it out in just a second here. But yeah, I went through, checked every component. Here's our reverb driver down here. It's 1/2 of V1. That's part of our 12AX7. This was one thing that was not present in the original schematic. So if you have a schematic, you may want to check this. There's 100K to ground right here at this point. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that the reverb doesn't work. I don't know. It shouldn't, because that's just resistance to ground. So that's changing the impedance through to the next stage. So I don't know that should have anything to do with it. That's just kind of setting a baseline for ground reference. But that would be something we can look at a little bit later if it turns out the tank still won't work for us, even after servicing it and cleaning it and everything. The Tremolo works just fine. That tube came with the amp, the 6AV6. It was already in there. It was the only tube that actually came with the amp, this little guy. It's a little 7-pinner. So I had to supply my other tubes except for that guy, and it does work. So that's good to go. And one other, not problem, but one other difference from the schematic to the actual amp, and this was actually really damn close to the actual amp. I was kind of surprised because, you know, a lot of these 60s and 70s amps deviate pretty wildly sometimes from the schematics, especially when it's not even the labeled what the amp is labeled. So I would have, you know, have expected more differences than just these two. But the only differences I saw was this little 100K resistor to ground, and then right here, coming off the pin of our, or I'm sorry, coming off the plate of our tremolo oscillator through this 100K resistor here, we're actually getting our power supply not from this point, which is the 10 microfarad node, but we're getting it from this 20 microfarad node here, which is the second node. Here's 1, 2, 3. So instead of 3, we're actually getting the supply from 2. So that's the only other difference that I saw, and yeah, very consistent, very much in line with this schematic. So this is pretty darn perfect. You can't ask for much more than that. But yeah, we're and we'll check here. I'll show you what just kind of preliminarily before we do an actual full test. This thing's been burning for a little while, but you can hear it. We are getting sound out of it. Both speakers do work. They work perfectly, so I have no problems with that. I cleaned all of the pots, which is a pretty standard thing to do, but the tremolo here works. If I can make it work. Let's see. Well, for some reason it's not working for us right now, but we'll figure out why. Let's see which one's the depth. Here we go. Yeah, our tremolo, for whatever reason, is not working at the moment, so I might have to do something about that. But yeah, so we're actually a lot better shape than I initially thought we might be when I first got this thing. So yeah, let's check out the tremolo, why it's not working. We'll check out the reverb and see why it's not working, and kind of go from there. It's a new day. We're back in here with this Teisco, and we're going to tackle the non-working tremolo first. And to do that, we're going to replace the three caps that are responsible for the for changing the phase, and we'll do that first, see how it responds, and if it's still non-responsive, we'll track down another one of these tubes, and we'll try replacing the tube and see if that gets it going. If it doesn't, I'll go back through here, and maybe there's another couple cap, or there's at least one more cap in the tremolo circuit that I could replace as well, and we'll replace that one if need be as well. So let's get those three suspect caps replaced. These are the oil type, which don't tend to last anyway, so I'm not surprised that I wouldn't be surprised if one of those was the problem, and replacing all three of those should solve it. So that's what we'll do, and we'll be right back. Okay, we have three new caps in the tremolo, and as you can hear, everything's working now. We do have tremolo, so that's good. Now let's set our sights on that faulty reverb. Okay, I've been toying with this thing for a minute or two, and kind of determined that the sound is a bit thin and kind of uninspiring, to be honest. So I'm going to do a couple of mods to try to bring out more bass response and more gain overall. I would have suspected that with 7189s in particular, which is basically like it's like a higher powered EL-84 tube, that we should be really rocking with this thing. I'm thinking two things are suspect. I've noticed a couple of components, or at least one component on the schematic that I would probably like to change. It looks like they got 100K happy here, and this resistor here, the grid leak resistor here, is just a bit too low, I think. I'm going to go with like a 1 meg in this position. I'll probably also come over here and put a grid stopper resistor right here into this second stage of gain, just to kind of tame down some of the ice pickiness. So doing this should pump up some gain. I may consider upping this bypass cap, but I may not. And I'm going to do some voltage tests as well in different places through the amp. And since I changed to a 5U4, or since the previous owner actually technically changed to a 5-volt type rectifier, but I put a 5U4 in it, I'm going to do some voltage checks and just see what's coming out of the 5U4, and also see what is on the plates of these 12AX7s, just out of curiosity, what kind of voltages we're looking at. And also I'll go ahead and check the bias on the output tubes too. And maybe that should help a little bit, but right now, like I said, it's just kind of tinny and uninspiring tonally. So what we're gonna do, and I'll show you here, I'm hoping we don't have to change speakers. I've got one speaker in the lower portion of the cab that seems like it's a little bit scratchy. I'm hoping that it's not gonna need a replacement. But at the same time, I was kind of suspecting these speakers might anyway. And it's hard to do two one-handed. So, well, actually, let me just set this down for a sec. There we go. I'll just set this down for a second. You might not see very much, but just really tinny, and again, kind of cold, uninspiring tone, and also, I hear hints of crackle on that lower speaker. So I'm thinking a couple of new speakers, probably for this thing. If I can find some good ceramic, inexpensive replacements, would be my best bet, with decent power handling. and I'll change this to a 1 meg and do the couple other little changes like this grid stopper here, check the bias on the output tubes, and then we'll and I'll check voltages too, and we'll get right back to this and see where we are. Okay, I've got a different speaker cab hooked up here, and the speaker that's in this is like a vintage Rolla. I forget exactly what it is, but I think it's like a Rolla AlNiCo something or other. But anyway, so it's got a little better power handling, nicer speaker than the ones that come stock, I think, in the amp. You can also see here I've taken the covers off of the reverb tank in the hopes of getting it to work, and to no avail so far. The only thing I really haven't tried is completely disconnecting it from the reverb tank and kind of and subbing in a different tank. I might do that in a bit and see if it's the tank. That's a possibility. But at any rate, I think what I'm going to do is modify slightly the tone stack on this thing, because while my modifications that I've done so far have helped, a new speaker certainly has helped as well to make it a lot louder, hell of a lot louder actually. It's still a bit tinny for my taste. I mean, that's on the neck pickup of a humbucker guitar, so you can imagine what the just real ice picky on the highs. I can back it down to about 4 on the treble, maybe even less than that actually, maybe around 2 on the treble, and it starts to become more tolerable. But you lose a lot of lose a lot of the character as well. So I need to strike some kind of balance. I think what I'm going to do is adjust the tone stack, maybe completely redesign the tone stack on this thing to get rid of some of the highs. Also, I've noticed when I turn the bass control, it kind of seems to go woof 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 a little bit, and that tells me it's kind of engaging and disengaging some caps in a way that probably just isn't the best design. I might go in there and just completely redesign the tone stack with a treble and bass setup that I find. I'll probably search through some Marshall designs, looking for something that's going to give me some high gain output, but at the same time stay creamy rather than ice picky. So, but I think we're on the right track because certainly. That's a lot more gain than we had before. I think that 1 meg resistor certainly helped. Now you have to take the ice picky stuff with a grain of salt. I do have a horn here. The horn is on a crossover, so it doesn't really. It's not really engaged very much. It's not even putting out very much, but it's there, probably contributing a little bit. So yeah, I've pretty much decided that's what we're going to do, so we'll go forward with it from there. Okay, back inside this Teisco again, and decided to go ahead and just recap the thing, as we can see here. This was a 3 microfarad on the power rail, and it was right here at the end of the power rail, and it's actually the cap that directly supplies the tube here. So I just had kind of a brainstorm that, 3 might be a little bit low. I upped this to 10. I don't know if that's responsible for it, but the reverb actually is working now. One other cap that I did change was this cap right here in the reverb circuit, which is this little .005. I replaced it with a 0047 here, and don't know if it was this cap or this cap responsible, but at any rate, the reverb has begun working now, as it should. So that's a good thing. I'm probably going to come back in here and modify this tone stack slightly. I'll probably, if nothing else, I'll probably replace the caps in this tone stack because these aren't very good caps to begin with, and just having them replaced should ensure that they work a little better. Sometimes I notice when I turn the bass control, I get kind of a fluff, fluff, fluff kind of a sound, and I think these caps may be responsible. I think one of these, or maybe even both, are going bad. So we're just going to shotgun these caps probably in this tone circuit, and maybe even take the opportunity, since we're changing caps anyway, to think about what sort of things we can do with it. A 500p to the leg of the treble is fairly standard, but a 500k treble is kinda high for a lot of the circuits that you'll see. I think Marshalls and Fenders both, if I'm not mistaken, use 250s, but I'll have to look that up again. But yeah, that might be a little high, and I might come in here and change this. I'm not sure, or what I might do actually is modify this 500p to kind of compensate for this being a 500k. I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to do with the tone stack, but I'm going to give it some thought. Maybe look over a couple of example tone stacks and see what sorts of things we can change. I do know that this is going to be basically our fixed mids, and I may like to up our mids somewhat in this amplifier. In other words, express more mids on through to the next stage, because the more mids that you can express, especially on an amp like this, if you can slam the 7189 outputs, EL-84 type tubes with some good mid-range, they will usually reproduce that mid-range very well, and it will kind of give it a sort of a growly overdrive when you crank it up just a bit. So I think that's what I'll probably end up going for, and take the opportunity, since I'm going to change caps anyway in this tone stack, to go ahead and just do maybe some slight modifications. So here's what our new schematic looks like. I also changed the input resistor, so we have 3 different input resistors. We have a 33K, a 68, and a 100, so we have a choice there. Changed this to a 1 meg. Moving along, changed the treble pot to a 250K from a 500K. We changed this value to a 33, changed this cap to a 22, and then it has a parallel 22 also, and this is again kind of Marshall-esque, going into the bass control, which has been changed to a 1 meg. Removed this 100K and changed this one to a 15K in the hopes of beefing up some mid-range. Basically, that's just kind of, the Marshall equivalent. If we had a pot here, would have been 25K, so that would be with that pot pegged all the way up 25K. So 15K is about a little half past center. This value here, I put a grid stopping resistor in of 220K. I actually upped that from the 100 that I had in there before, and that made this more correct whenever you turn the volume knob. On the output here, we have 50 microfarads on the bypass cap instead of 100. Of course, we know about the 5Y3 and the 5-volt transformer that was installed. This was a 10 microfarad instead of a 3, or it wasn't, but I changed it to that. Let's see, what other values? Those are the only values I changed. But there's our final schematic, and I think we're ready to test this amp out. Oh, one more thing actually. One of these speakers is sounding really bad. It's got like a lot of crackle in it, and I'm gonna have to at least replace this bottom speaker, if not both of them. I might see if I can't locate a couple of 10-inch speakers to put in here, something with a little higher power handling and a little more efficient. But yeah, this one's pretty much shot, so I've got to yank that one anyway, so I might as well see if I can't find a good pair of speakers. Had this amp all buttoned up and was about to test it out, or actually was testing it out, and noticed that one of my power tubes was red plating. I had these International Service Master 7189 pair in there. Noticed one of them was red plating. It wasn't doing that before, and so curious, I opened it back up and took some readings of the bias on those output tubes, and I guess I don't know what exactly had happened, but now one of them is considerably weaker than the other, and so they were really mismatched. So what I've done, I've put a pair of I don't know if we can see them or not, but there's a pair of Mullards in here now. These are the old ones. I don't know, probably from the 60s, Mullards. And I've actually gone through also and replaced pretty much every cap in the amplifier. Just kind of to be on the safe side. You know, those oil, I was kind of suspect anyway of those oil caps. So I've just gone ahead and replaced all of them with these poly caps. And they're more reliable. They have a lot higher voltage rating anyway, so I mean they should be in here for pretty much forever. You know, sometimes if you have problems with red plating, your coupling cap before that stage could have been leaking DC, but just, you know, rather than just measure it and replace the one cap, you know, those oil caps I've never had a great deal of luck with anyway, so I just went and replaced them all just to be on the safe side. So pretty much, like I said, virtually every cap except for this one has been replaced, and I think that one was replaced by a previous the previous guy anyway, so the same guy who put these in. So I replaced all the other caps in the amp, so we shouldn't have any more problems with that. Also rebiased, instead of the 130 I stuck a 200 ohm bias resistor on the output stage, so that has gotten our bias about where it needs to be to keep the tubes lasting a good long time. Here's our figures. These are our one tube's dissipating about 11.3 watts. The other's dissipating about 12.7 watts. 451 volts on one plate, 439 on the other plate. Our output transformer was a little mismatched between the two windings. This is how I did my readings, but the output transformer was a little off, and I think that's what's causing the final reading to be just a little bit off on the dissipation. But I think, you know, we're pretty good on dissipation. We're not exactly at the 70%, a little bit lower. We would have could have gotten us to the 70% mark, which is kind of a rule of thumb. But I think those figures should be fine, and this amp should be ready to go. So we're going to button it up now, finally, and I haven't noticed any other problems. I am going to go ahead and clean the output tube sockets, because I did notice when I was putting these tubes in that there was a little bit of scratchiness on the sockets, so I'm going to clean both of those output tube sockets, and I think we'll be ready to go. Okay, we changed out these speakers and found a set of CTS 1972 Fender labeled, blue labeled AlNiCos that we've put in here. If you recall from some of my other videos, this is from these speakers are actually from that Fender Super 6. Wasn't able to use those in that 210 because of the power handling issues, but they're perfect in this amp. So I'm going to find some different ones for that 210 Super 6 cut down thingamajig that you probably remember from another video. But and this also, if you'll recall, we were missing the back door, so I've gone and cut one, and we're gonna get this painted, and at least we'll have some sort of back door here. So let's get this back door painted up, and then we'll test this. Okay, we've got our new Fender speakers in there, or well, our vintage ones. We've got our new back door on that we've made. We've got our Mullard power tubes in there. She's fired up and glowing and ready to be tested out. So let's hear what she sounds like. Okay, we finally got this thing to the point where we can take a listen to it. So let's see what kind of tones we can get out of it. So yeah, that's about a 1970 to 1972 Teisco Express 7.